everyone, this is Mombi. Let's take a look around Twitter and see which hashtags are trending right now and what is most popular on Twitter right now amongst Pakistanis who are online on Twitter and by everybody else. So let's go take a look around. Another hashtag that is trending worldwide is the hashtag France is not secure for the football match that's going to happen in 2016. About 2 million people expected to flock to France. The tweets seem to be by people who are of origin that might be Arab or Asian or Middle Eastern, from what I can tell by a lot of the tweets. But anyway, with the pictures that are really alarming with police and riots in the street, a lot of the tweets talk about the president of France, who, according to certain articles, like for instance the international newspaper Guardian, that say he is one of France's most unpopular leaders, according to a recent poll. While some international newspapers put François Hollande, I think that's how you pronounce it. I was thinking if it was pronounced Hollandais, it sounds pretty much like a rap star's name. So François Hollande is one of the least popular French leaders according to polls, according to some articles, and all that stuff comes up on Twitter. Whenever the topic is trending, you always get stuff that people tweet related to the subject.
The German Chancellor's words were echoed by those of the French president.
The
forces of division, of obstruction, of withdrawal are once more among us. They're spreading fear and hatred through weakness, delays, mistakes.
The speculation is because the region is so scattered and in so much turmoil, kind of in a state of emergency under Hollande's rule, that it's probably not a great idea for 2 million people to go over there and watch the football match. Some tweets say, well, some of the tweets do say we're worried about France's reputation when it comes to security, and some others say we don't really want to be celebrating watching a football match while civilians are being hurt right outside our doorstep. Okay, so one of the hashtags that is trending on Twitter right now worldwide is the hashtag Chad.
The historic trial of a former president has concluded. A court in Senegal has sentenced Chad's former ruler, Hissène Habré, to life in prison for crimes against humanity.
Who served from the 1980s to 1990, was sentenced by the Senegalese court, which is also in French West Africa. Legally, this was a first because it was the first time that the African court itself had taken part in sentencing an African dictator to life imprisonment, and he was sentenced for war crimes that included lots of assault and imprisonment, along with, of course, genocide.
The case was heard by a special tribunal set up by the African Union under a deal with Senegal. Victims who had travelled to Dakar to hear the verdict were visibly moved by a judgment that comes a quarter of a century after the abuses they suffered.
So he appears in court wearing lots of covering and sunglasses, and he didn't make any kind of response to the judge when asked if he had anything to say. Well, one of the reasons it's probably trending on Twitter right now is because it just brings to the foreground once again whatever has been going on in West Africa and all the aid and all the help that is still required in that region. Well, predictably, the hashtag Memorial Day 2016 was going to be trending. Everyone could predict it. This hashtag is, of course, going to be trending on Twitter, given that whatever happens in America is almost always trending worldwide on Twitter. Well, if they invented it, they can dominate it. That makes sense. To the victor, the spoils. So Memorial Day is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Memorial Day is kind of a tribute to everyone who has ever served in service of the American Army, American country, as opposed to Veterans Day, which is about people who have died in service. Well, hashtags like this do inspire a little bit of research. For instance, I was thinking, does this holiday have something to do with puppies? Because I've been seeing those on other social media tweets as well. And it is kind of related because there was a Canadian during the First World War an officer who was serving for one of the Canadian military arms, wrote a really famous poem, Flanders Field, a poem about a village or a locality near Ypres, a place in Belgium. The poem is really beautiful and it's an instant classic here.
To you from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die.
There's lots of pictures online of the original poem that the guy wrote in his own handwriting. I believe he was killed during the conflict. Memorial Day, that does make me think of lots of poppies, and in America it's supposed to be, in America I think that the date falls on the last Monday of the month of May, which for Americans I think marks the beginning of summer vacations, officially, something like that. I think Labor Day marks the end of the summer vacations, according to American tradition, something to do with picnics, a really old tradition that actually began with the American Civil War in the late 19th century. Of course, there are lots of tweets that have been going out by celebrities or by famous politicians, something that is really meaningful to Americans. So they have other names in Europe, but it's technically the same holiday, or the kind of the same thing that all of them are Remembrance Day. Well, in Europe, the holiday would have different names, but it's technically about commemorating whatever happened in World War I, World War II, related to the sacrifices that the people who were fighting at the front made. Of course, the Memorial Day is specifically, the American Memorial Day is specifically for the contribution that the American soldiers made, which is what is being commemorated on Twitter. Okay, so that was it for today. Thank you for taking a look around, and let's keep an eye on all the trends and see how stuff keeps changing and what gets added and what gets taken off the charts, whatever is trending at the top right now on Twitter. And for now, it is a bye-bye from Mombi.